Hey everyone, this is Hafizullah Masoudi and you're watching From Code with Hafiz. I welcome you to the 12th video of this series where we will discuss the CSS layout, horizontal and vertical alignment. Now first of all, we have the center align elements. So to horizontally center a block element like div, so we can use margin auto. Now setting the width of the element will prevent it from stretching out to the edges of its container. So the element will then take up the specified width and the remaining space will be split equally between the two margins. So to show you an example of this one, let's create an h2 here and let's say center align elements and let's create a paragraph 2. And in here let's put some lorem ipsum for now, and after the paragraph I will create a div. So for this div let's declare a class and let's declare center. Now inside the div let's declare a paragraph and let's say hello world. So let's go to our style stack and in here let's target the center class. So dot center curly braces, and first of all let's say margin auto, and then we can declare the width for it. So let's say 60%, and let's say border, so border should be 3px, and let's say solid, and let's say red, and let's also give it some padding, so 10px. Now if we save this and refresh the browser now, so now you can see the div is horizontally centered. Now next up what we have is center aligning a text. So to just center the text inside an element, we can use the text align center property. So to show you this one, let's get back to Visual Studio Code, and inside this center class we can say text hyphen align and make it center. Now if you refresh the browser, you can see the text is being centered. Now next up what we have is we can center an image too. So to center an image we can set the left and right margin to auto and make it into a block element. So to show you an example of this one, let's get back to Visual Studio Code, and in here what I will do is I will remove this center styling from here, and let's also remove this div from here. And now let's create an image here, so img, and for the source I have an image by the name of paris.jpg, and for the alt attribute let's say paris, and let's also declare some width for it in here. So let's say width, and it should be 40%. Now let's go to our style stack because we wanna center it. So for now if you refresh the browser, well, it's not loading for some reason. So let's see what is the problem, and yeah, we have to first go to the images folder and then Paris GPG. Now let's see the image. So you can see it's not centered. So let's get back to our style stack, and in here let's target the image, so curly braces, and let's say display block, and then we have the margin left, so auto, and then we have the margin right, so let's say auto 2. Now if we refresh the browser now you can see the image is being centered horizontally. Now next up what we have is aligning left or right using the position property. So it is a method for aligning elements, so to use the position absolute property. So to show you some examples, let's get back to Visual Studio Code. So first of all what I will do is I will remove this image styling from here. Let's also remove the image from here, and let's create a div with a class of right, and let's put a paragraph here and some lorem ipsum. Now let's target this right class. So in here let's say dot right and curly braces, and now we can position this element absolute, and we can set the right to 0px, and we can give it a width, so let's say 300px, and let's also declare some border for it. So 1 px solid, and let's make it green, and let's also give it some padding, so let's say 10 px. Now if I save this and refresh the browser, now you can see it is right aligned. Now note that absolute positioned elements are removed from the normal flow and it can overlap elements, so keep this in mind. Now another method for aligning elements to left and right is using the float property. So to show you an example of this one, let's get back to Visual Studio Code, and what we can do is, instead of position and the right property, we can declare a floating property. So let's say float, and now we can make it right. So if I save this now and refresh the browser, now you can see it is right aligned. But now you can see that it's not getting the right 0, so because the body has some margin and padding, so for that reason now it is getting this right margin or padding from here. Now next up, what we have is the clear fix hack, which I told you about in our previous video. So if an element is taller than the element containing it and it is floated, it will overflow outside of its container, and you can use the clear fix hack to fix this. So then we can add the clear fix hack to the containing element to fix this problem. So to show you an example, let's get back to Visual Studio Code. Well, first of all, let's remove this styling from here, and let's also remove this div from here, because we will create some more divs here. Now first of all, let's create a div, and inside this div let's create an image, and for the source let's say images. Well, we want to go to the images, so let's say images, and let's select the pineapple.jpg, and for the alt let's say pineapple, and let's also give it some width, so 170, and let's also give it some height, so 170. And for the class of this image, let's give it a class, so let's say img1. And after the image, what we can do is declare some lorem ipsum, so let's say lorem, and let's duplicate this div here, and for the next one we have img2, and that's all. So for the next div, what I will do is I will also declare a class here, and it will be clear fix. And between these two divs, let's also create an issue so we can see its effects more clearly. So let's say issue, and let's also give this issue some styling, so let's say clear right, so let's say right here, and in here let's say some heading, and let's also create a paragraph here, so some lorem ipsum. Now let's style the images and also the clearfix class. So let's first of all target all the divs, so let's say div curly braces, and let's give it some border, and let's say 3px and a solid, and let's say green, and let's also give it some padding of 5px, and then let's target the first image, so .img1 curly braces, and let's float it to the right. And next up, let's target the second image, so .img2, and let's float this one also to the right. And now what we can do is we can use the clearfix hack on our clearfix div. So because for now, if we check out the browser, for now you can see both are overlapping is a containing element. So for the last one, which is this one, we will now apply the clearfix hack, and you will see what happens. So let's press enter here, and let's say .clearfix, which is the class of the div, and then colon after, and curly braces, and inside here first of all let's make the content empty, and then clear both, and then a display table. Now if I save this, refresh the browser, now you can see the image is not overlapping, and now the container is getting all the height and width for the image. Now next up, what we have is centering elements vertically using padding. So there are many ways to center an element vertically in CSS. So a simple solution is to use top and bottom padding. So to show you an example, so let's get back to Visual Studio Code, and what I will do is I will remove all of this styling from here, and let's also remove all of this code from here. Well, let's leave the h2 and a paragraph. So let's press enter here, and let's create a div with a class of a center, and let's create a paragraph here, and let's say I am vertically centered. Now let's target this center class in our style stack. So in here let's say dot center curly braces, and let's say padding 70 px and a 0, and let's also give it some border, so 3 px and then a solid, and let's say green. And if we save this and refresh the browser, now you can see the text is vertically centered. So let's also center it horizontally, so we can just say text align and then center. So now it will be both horizontally and vertically centered inside this div. Now another trick is to use the line height property with a value that is equal to the height property, so to center vertically using the line height property. So to show you an example of this one, let's get back to Visual Studio Code. So what we can do is instead of padding, let's declare a line height. So let's say line height, and let's say 200 px, and let's give it some height, so this will be also 200 px. Now if I save this and get back to the browser and let's refresh, well, for now you can see it is being centered but not completely. So let's get back to Visual Studio Code. Now what we have to do is for the paragraph, let's say dot center and then a paragraph to target the paragraph, and now we can say line height. So let's say line height and let's say 1.5, and then we can display the paragraph inline block, and after that let's say vertical align, and we want this one to be middle. So if we save this now and refresh, now you can see it is completely centered vertically and horizontally as before. Now next up, what we can use for centering vertically or horizontally is that using the position and transform property. So if padding and line height are not options, another solution is to use a positioning and the transform property. So to show you an example of this one, let's get back to Visual Studio Code. Now what we can do is for the center class, let's remove the line height, and for the height, well, let's suppose 200 px is alright, and let's declare a position for it. So I will remove the text align too. Now in here let's say a position, and let's make it relative. And for the paragraph, what we will do is let's remove the line height. So let's remove the line height. Now let's also remove the display, and let's also remove the vertical align. And instead of these properties, let's say margin should be 0, and let's make a position for it, so absolute, and let's say top should be 50%, and let's say left should be also 50%, and then we want to transform, so let's say transform, and we want translate, so minus 50% and minus 50%. Now what this will do is center the paragraph inside the div both horizontally and vertically. So if we refresh the browser, you can see the paragraph is still centered vertically and horizontally. Now you will learn more about the transform property in an upcoming video in the series. So for now, just know that this is an option that you can use to center an element both horizontally and vertically. Now the next thing that we have is centering an element using Flexbox. So you can use Flexbox to center things, and just note that Flexbox is not supported in Internet Explorer 10 and earlier versions. So let's get back to Visual Studio Code to show you some examples. So now what we can do is, instead of all of this code, let's first remove the styling for the paragraph, and let's also remove the styling for the center but leave the center class. Now in here, let's say display flex, and then we can justify content to center, and then we can align items to center, and after that let's give it a height of 200 px and a border also, so 3 px solid and green. And if we refresh the browser now you can see it is still centered both horizontally and vertically. Now you will learn about a Flexbox 2 in an upcoming video in this series, so don't worry about it. Just for now, know that you have this option to center an element both horizontally and vertically. Now this was all for this video. I hope you enjoyed watching the video and found it useful. If so, don't forget to give the thumbs up and a nice comment too. And if you are new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe too if you want more videos like this. So thanks for watching. See ya in the next video.